welcome to my YouTube channel. It's time to play with some more Spellbinders goodies. So Spellbinders contacted me and asked me if I'd like to play with some of these goodies. And so they sent me the 3D eggs and flowers dies, which loved it. Here's all the dies. So you get two different size of these eggs, and then you get different flower dies and leaves. And here's like some centers to the flowers. This is a flower that you can roll up, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. Then they also sent me the Spring Embellishments Dies. So you get a rainbow, some Easter eggs, some hearts, and some shamrocks, some 4-leaf clovers. So, oh, and you also get this, it would be like a belt buckle on the hat of the little gnome. Now, when I agreed to do these, they did ask if I had the gnome, the Fergus gnome set, and I did not, so they sent me this. And guys, I'm in love. Like every time I find something new to do in the crafty world, it just takes over my space. So there's a lot of dies. So this one is the hat. Here's the beard. There's 2 layers to the beard. This one is the back of the jacket, and this is the 2 front sides of the jacket. This is the gnome, so the body of the gnome. And this is the base part of that. This is the brim of the hat. And this is like a strip around it. So you could use that belt buckle or that buckle to add from here onto the brim of, or the trim around the hat. So I played with them for a bit before anything. And I made, oh my goodness, guys, I made my first little Fergus. Look how cute it turned out. So I went with purples. I put the hat the right way. My grandson was in here playing with this. He wants me to make him one. So here's my little Fergus. Here's his hat and his jacket. Now I did stuff him with some polyfill, and then I bought some of that, it's crushed walnut shells. It's called lizard litter. And so I added that. But, oh, isn't that cute? Now here I saw the instructional video by Sandy McIver, and here she stitches it just straight along, but I decided to do X's like when you're cross stitching. So I did that on the hat and on the little bands on the sleeves of our little gnome. So cute. So this is my little gnome. In addition to my little gnome, let me put him here to the side, I did make 2 of the Easter eggs. So I made 2 of the smaller eggs. Here's that flower I was telling you that rolls up to make like the center of your flower. And so I did cut a lot of hearts and flowers and leaves and glued them onto here. Now I glued them onto the parts of the egg before I stitched the egg together. See how cute that is? And again, filled it with that polyfill and the crushed walnut shell so it would stand. So there's that one. And then I made this one as well. Oh, and on this one, guys, so I did something. I bought the felt from Spellbinders, and then I bought some just cheap felt, you know, off of Amazon. I thought, let's see, do you really need the Spellbinders felt? Guys, you really need the Spellbinders felt. So I cut, I don't think it's on any of these, but on the ones I cut for the next egg we're going to make, I cut using the Spellbinders felt, which is what I use for all of these, and then the off-brand felt. What a difference. I mean, the Spellbinders felt cut much better. It feels thicker. They both say that they're the same thickness. I think it was 1 millimeter, but it felt thicker, felt more substantial. It cut through on the first pass. The cheaper one, I had to cut a couple of passes. So way better. But then I also grabbed some of this faux leather from my stash. And this part here, let me show you, is faux leather. So I added that. You could probably cut like the egg out of faux leather. In fact, what I think I might do when I'm done with this next egg is cut some of these, but leave the bottom flap so kind of opens, and fill it with candies for my grandkids. And this will be their Easter eggs this year instead of those plastic ones. So I think that's what I'm going to do. But I did cut all my pieces for the larger egg. So I used the pink that came in the felt set I bought. And trying to see where that cheaper, maybe I didn't attach it. Oh, I know where it is. It's on the back of Fergus. This is the back. I forgot to show you guys the back. I made a whole little scene on the back of him. And for this, it's like the grassy area. I used the Spring Embellishments, and I used, nope, it wasn't that one. Where is it? Oh, it is what came in the 3D eggs and flowers. So this part here is for, that's actually for, oh, the center part of this flower right here, to kind of make the stamen. So that turned out cute. So I just left it because it kind of looks like blades of grass, right? So I left that there. Yeah, I did cut it out. And just cut a bunch of them and glued them onto the back of the jacket. And so that looks like there's Easter eggs in the grass. Now here you can see they didn't even stick on right. I used the same glue for the felt from Spellbinders as I did for these ones. And this felt just, it's like almost transparent. You can kind of see through it. So Spellbinders felt all the way, all the way. I'll link to everything, guys, in the description box below. But I'm not going to bother linking to the one on Amazon because I just don't think it was the best quality. And I would not recommend using that. But there's the back of Fergus. Look how cute. He has a little tulip and Easter egg surrounding it. So cute. But as I was saying, I did cut out all my pieces for the larger egg from that 3D Eggs and Flowers die set. And here's some of the embroidery floss that I have. And I have a lot of embroidery floss so that I can just use it on when I'm doing stitching on my die cuts, whether it be felt or paper. But yeah, I just love the way these turned out. So I'm going to set the completed ones aside. And then I'm going to kind of show you how I put these together. And I'll probably play a little bit of music while I do that, so you don't have to hear me chatter all the way. And I'll speed it up too. But see, I kind of laid out the pieces I cut out, and I cut out a whole bunch of pieces. I have a bunch of flowers and hearts and things left over, so I can make more. But I just cut. I didn't count. I just cut a bunch and kept cutting and cutting and cutting till I had a nice variety to play with. There. So all I did was use my Barely Art glue on these to attach them. So I had to unclog that. But I just added that. You could probably, in fact, I think I did on one or two, use hot glue to add it too. Because the hot glue will have like an almost immediate grip. And this glue, I need to let it sit for a minute to adhere. But I was okay with letting it sit because as I was letting the glue dry, I was working on another egg and working on cutting more pieces out for Fergus's little jacket. Now these leaves, there's holes in there to stitch on them, but I decided I wasn't going to stitch on the embellishments I'm adding. Not today anyway, because I wanted to kind of get this done quickly. But you could. Like you could most definitely add stitching to this. It would give it a whole other dimension. And a whole other look. Oh my. I think I have glue on my other fingers. Okay. Let me get the rest added on here and then we'll start to stitch our egg together. friends, I forgot. I also have this glue. I think I tried using it, but I was so happy with my Barely Art glue that I just set it aside. But let's give it a try here. So this is specifically meant for fabric. It comes on clear. It does take a minute to dry. So I'm gonna glue the rest using the fabric fusion, and then we'll kind of see what looks best or what sticks best. Now, I'm going to tell you, when stitching your pieces together, I tried one, you could see the little stitch holes punched through, but they didn't come out. And I tried stitching it with them just in there, and it's doable. It is doable, but I will tell you, it is much easier when they are all removed. And that way, when you put your pieces together, you can see clear through them because you know that the holes are aligned, and then it makes stitching so much quicker. So I'm going to go through here and just take out any that didn't come out already so that my pieces can be ready to stitch together. Alrighty friends, I got all the felt poked out of the holes. So now what I'm going to do is I have a nice long piece of this embroidery floss, and I knotted it at the bottom, and it's 3 strands. So when you get embroidery floss like this is 6 strands put together, and that's the thickness of it. So you can always separate it out into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or leave it at 6, but I have it as 3 strands, and this is about a yard of floss. I want to have a nice long piece of floss so it doesn't end in the middle of my stitching up and down. So all I'm going to do here is I'll start at the bottom of my little egg, and going in here, I want to leave a nice long enough tail to where when I come back, I can knot it with the thread that comes back. But in the meantime, you're just going up and down, really. So when you're going through, this is why it's important to have these holes popped out so you can see through them. And it's hard to see that on camera, but in person I can see right through, and I can see that I'm going through this hole on the top piece and it's coming out through the hole on the back piece. And so just pulling it gently. You don't want to pull hard because felt can tear quite easily. And then pulling straight up, and then the next hole going down. And I am going to do that going all the way up this side and then coming back on the bottom side. Here on my last hole, I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm going to go through the first layer. Oops, I dropped my needle. So that I can make my knot with the little tail that I left when I started. So here, I'm going to go ahead and knot this up because these will hide, the knots will be hidden on the inside of your egg. All right. right, there's 2 pieces put together. So once I have these 2 together, you can do it by adding the 3rd one and then the 4th one, which is what I did on one of my eggs. And then on my other egg, what I did was stitch these 2 pieces together. So I had 2 pieces of 2 sides of the eggs joined, and then I joined those 2. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to join this side, but paying attention because I want to make sure I alternate my decor on the sides. Alrighty friends, I've got all 4 sides stitched together. So here's the majority of the stitching. Then you have this square. That is the bottom of your egg it's going to stand on. So what I'm doing here is just lining up my dots, my holes, and I am going to start stitching one side of the square to the bottom of the egg. But I'm going to go from the inside and leave that tail again so I can close that up, and then just start going back and forth like we did on the sides of the eggs. And here I'm only going to stitch on 2 sides of the square, and then I'll stuff it, and then we'll stitch the last 2 sides to complete this little egg. So let me finish these 2 sides and then we'll go to stuffing our egg. Okay friends, I have it stitched on 2 sides of the square on the bottom. You can see here, so there's still an opening, and that's what I'll use to stuff my little egg. And this is the bag of polyfill that I bought. I got it at Hobby Lobby. They didn't have a smaller bag, so I just went with it. I'm sure I'll use it for other projects in the future. So I have enough polyfill here to fill hundreds of little eggs if I want. And then this was the box of walnut shells that I bought off of Amazon. I'll link to this in the description box as well. I couldn't find a smaller container of this, so this is what I got. So again, probably have enough for 100 eggs. So let's get started on filling our little egg. Now you really don't need too much of the fill to stuff this little egg, but what I do is I kind of take a bunch out and then separate it, and then I take little bits at a time and stuff my little egg carefully because you don't want to tear the seams or the felt. So I just do that very gently and get it all stuffed. Not all the way full though. Get it stuffed about maybe a little more than 3/4 of the way full. At least that's how I'm doing it. And I'm kind of pushing it in towards the very top. I want it to be more of a full filling here. So it's squishy, but not too squishy. And get this in here. Then after I get the polyfill, as much polyfill as I think I want in here or need, then I'll go in with those crushed walnut shells. And that just helps, it weights the bottom so that your little eggs can stand as a little decorative piece. Like I can put these on my mantle. Although it would stand even with a polyfill. This one would anyway. But let me show you what I do with a walnut shell. So I've got the polyfill pretty well stuffed in here. I don't even need this piece. So it goes back in the bag. And I'll grab my big container here and I'm going to put it off to the side. And I just use the lid to catch any of the walnut shells that happens to fall. In fact, I might pull it closer. And I have a plastic spoon in there and I'm just filling up the bottom of my egg here. Pushing down on the polyfill as I add the walnut shells so they can fill up appropriately. So to where it's almost level to the base of the egg. I just want to make sure I don't overstuff it. And don't worry, all that will stay in once we finish our stitching. So let me get this cleaned up a little bit and then we'll finish stitching. And I still have my thread ready to go, or my embroidery floss. And I'm picking up where I left off on one of the corners. Alrighty friends, here is our completed little 3D egg. Isn't that cute? So I have this one, and then I have two smaller ones. So this is the larger one. Let me kind of lay them flat so you can see, which because of all those walnut shells aren't going to want to lay them flat. Okay, there you go. And then here is our little Fergus to go with those eggs. Those are going to make such a cute little display or decoration on my mantle. And I just know the grandkids are going to want some of these. One already told me, Grandma, I want one of these. So, yeah, I'm going to be making some more. I'm also going to be ordering the other add-ons for the Fergus little set. So there's a winter add-on and I think a fall. There's different add-ons. So they have other decorative pieces you could add to Fergus or different stitching projects. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end. I'd be thrilled if you subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on any of my other social media platforms. As always, have a beautiful, safe, and creative day. Thanks for watching. Bye.